Okay. I've been meaning to do this video here for the last few times I've been up to these trails. And this is an area where the trail forks off and then meets again. So I could split off with Ben and the dogs and go ahead and film this. But yeah, every time we get to that fork, I always lose the nerve to tell Ben I'm going to do that. And then I don't ever get it done. But I'm getting it done today. But this is the Marsh Trail, it's called. I don't know if you can see the marsh down there or not. For some reason I'm really nervous about making this one. I don't know why. My heart is racing a bit. I'm not really paying attention to where I'm holding the camera. But I've been just really in a kind of a state of confusion lately. Just about this whole mental health issue. I mean, as far as the problems I have with anxiety and depression and everything. I mean, fear and sadness, of course, are natural emotions. They're things we have. Mental health is just all a matter of degree. I just suddenly realized I was walking alone in the woods and talking to myself. Anyway. And I've been trying to figure out which is the parts of this that are just me, for instance, feeling sad, and which are the parts that could be considered illness. It's like my brain is a house full of furniture, and there's a whole bunch of it that's rotten and I need to get rid of. But there's also all the good furniture in there that needs to stay, and I'm not exactly sure which is which. What is it as I'm focusing on trying to get rid of certain traits? I mean, what are those things I want to get rid of? I mean, obviously I want to reduce anxiety. I'd like to not have panic attacks. Those aren't exactly normal to have. I'd like to be done with that, but I mean, as far as the mood swings, I don't know. Those are, I mean, a doctor would tell me they're conditions, but to me they still just feel like emotions. They still just feel like my feelings. And it's never really occurred to me to think otherwise all that much. My hands get tired. There's been times in my life where I went through these really down, depressing times where, I felt like I had died inside, that brought about a lot of realizations. When you lose hope like that, you also lose biases, philosophical biases. You don't care how things are, if it's one way or the other. You're indifferent to it. You're apathetic. So you lose a lot of biases that blind you to a lot of things. You know, to me, it felt a lot like becoming, I don't know, like that kind of Taoist notion of the empty vessel. You know, the value in it. It's like, you know, that notion of trying to gain wisdom is like grabbing water with your hand, trying to grab a drink out of the river with your hand. If you just grasp at it like you're trying to grab food, it just goes through your hands, goes through your fingers. You have to cup your hands together and make that empty space, and that's what depression seemed to do for me at times. And then after, there's that period afterwards where I'd be energized and, you know, be wanting to, you know, I'd start studying philosophy and things like that, just ravenously, and having all kinds of great ideas. And I mean, a doctor, a psychiatrist, or therapist, if I describe those situations to them, they might just say that I had had a depressive episode, a long depressive episode followed by a manic period. But to me, it was like a spiritual death and rebirth that changed a whole lot of who I am and the way I perceive reality. And I'm not so sure that's something I'm really willing to give up at this point. That's beautiful in here. I'm certainly willing to give up the panic attacks, but I don't know, the hypersensitivity I'm certainly not willing to get rid of in any way. Even though it does drive me a little crazy from time to time. How much of this mental illness is, I mean, if my views and the way that I've developed over my lifetime, over decades, has been all shaped by a mental illness. I mean, how much of what is me is just a result of that? If you take away all of what so many doctors and therapists might term as my mental illness and make me all normal and 100% better, what's really left of me? That's what I'm wondering. How much of me, you know, do I feel like giving up? Or do I have to? I don't know. Anyone has any thoughts on that? I'd love to hear them. I probably should have walked a bit slower down this path. I would have got some better footage. But that's one of those things. I always walk and talk and eat fast. It gets you through life's social situations quickly. This is the part I really like in here. Cathedral-like. I'm doing pretty good for time, actually. Well, I hope some of this has made some sense anyway. Like I said, I'd like to hear anyone's thoughts on the subject. Hope you enjoyed the road, or the trail. 2 minutes away from my house. If that. And I just started coming here. Yeah. There's definitely some things I want to change.